Welcome back. Our concluding moment with Comrade Ajaero, Factional President of the NLC. Well, since you are requesting that they revisit the results, you believe that you won that election, even though you say there isn't any precedent about how this kind of matters can be sorted within the framework of the union, why don't you approach the courts rather than allow this fester?
Well, like I said earlier, any of the parties can approach the court on this very issue, the way it stands now. And that's the way we do our things. We first of all take the labor position. And by that, you take a space. I will not be in my house saying I was elected president. And there are unions who say we elected him. And then we wait for the court to decide.
How many unions make up the NLC?
About 43 unions, 43 industrial unions. Separate unions.
So how many of them are on your side? 18?
Yeah, I was having about 23, but about 4 of them are plain neutral. Because some of them are equally reaching us, saying they want a united NLC. So it's not like every group has taken side. Many of them are calling, and we are talking. Let me tell you, we are talking towards that. But the modality, like I said, since there was no laid-down procedure, has not been dictated. Even the veterans have not assumed the position of maybe arbiters. They are still doing it advisory. I think those are the things weakening the process. Ordinarily, if it was a clear-cut policy or the veterans are a special committee that takes care of this, by the time they ask us do this, we could have abided by it. So I think maybe after this, we'll have to finally design a process.
I mean, when people are even contesting for these positions, do they come up with their program of action, how they intend to run the union? Did you come up with anyone?
Yeah, they do. They do.
You have one, right?
Yeah, I have one that was widely circulated.
What do you intend to do now? I mean, while this process of reconciliation is going on, I'm sure that you want the labor unions to also move on in terms of certain things that you've promised them. The people that are behind you will definitely be expecting you to do certain things for them.
Yeah, we've already started. Like on the May Day, I think I made a proposal of a 90,000 naira minimum wage proposal. That was part of my speech on the May Day, putting it forward for negotiation, giving certain parameter. I was able to, and that was part of my promise that on the first May Day, we are going to look at, an affordable and manageable minimum wage. We equally looked at the issue of casual labor. Because part of the problem we're having is that the unions in the private sector, have suffered so much. And that was part of the crisis, because after 8 years of the public sector unions led by Omar, it was a general agreement that the private sector should provide the president, unanimously before, at the eve of the nomination, the other man filled form, and then, so most of the unions with me are still the private sector unions that are undergoing precarious work.
That's on the one hand. The few queues are back. What is your take on what exactly is happening right now? There is no poor supply of electricity. I don't want to say no supply, but some people haven't seen. And then there's also few queues, few shortage. What exactly is your stance?
Well, that of electricity, I predicted it, even in this station, that privatize, you get darkness. It will be private gain, public disaster. I predicted it, so I won't comment on it. And it's part of my problem that is following me up to today. But that of queue, and like I analyzed on May Day, the problem we're having is problem of probably leadership. And that is what is affecting almost all facets of the economy. Because you produce cassava in your house, and that was the example I equally used. And then you sell the cassava as a raw cassava, and then buy gari. In primitive economy, you don't do it. You take the little that you and your family will eat and sell the other, for them to, now refine water. So if you are talking of selling crude, now buying petrol products or gas, then there's a problem somewhere. we must tell ourselves the truth that if you sell crude and bring it back, it won't be the same price. That is one. So that is why I'm not among the people that are clearly for or against. It must be backed up with reason. You know, so if we are removing subsidy, we must make sure we have domestic refining capacity. If you do that, you can buy it as cheap as 40 or 50 or less. But if we don't, you must equally factor in, you know, the amount you are going to take it there, you know, bring it back. And of course, they will equally top something on it. So that's the confusion we have.
I want to ask you, I mean, because you're definitely saying that there are conditions for the removal of subsidy. That's your stance, it would seem. But it would seem that you're also saying that government would, on the one hand, be fixing refineries or building new refineries, whatever path they choose, and at the same time, also ensuring that Nigerians are still getting a subsidy, which is like a double expense, it would seem, even though one would, you know, eventually supersede the other.
For the past...
Do you think that Nigeria can afford it?
No, for the first 6 months or 8 months, what I have said now is something that must happen. There must be fuel within this period, even while you are fixing the refineries.
The question is at what rate?
Well, at the rate, you may even, if you leave it open for people to continue to import and for them to sell at any price they like, then you have totally removed the subsidy. We'll come to that point. That one will create problems and we're going to face it, you know, when it happens. If you equally decide to subsidize it for that period, temporarily, either 6 months or whatever you fix it, that will even reduce the burden. You know, and you know that, you know, the subsidy you are paying for is for a period. So if you can fix the refineries in 3 months or 2 months, you know, the subsidy you are paying for will not last. But not to do any of this will still create more problem.
All right, well, that's where we'll have to draw the curtains for this segment. Thank you for coming on, Joe Ajaero, Factional President of the NLC. Well, yes, we also did have Ayuba Wabba, also Factional President of the NLC in our studios today, but we insisted that we must have both persons laying claim to the presidency of NLC, but he declined participation subsequently. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away.